In our headlines on this Wednesday, March 19th, here in Seoul, the Constitutional Court has yet to declare a date for its verdict on President Yoon Suk-yeol's impeachment, raising prospects of a further delay to most likely next week to learn about the president's political fate. Meanwhile, come April 2nd, the U.S. will provide its trading partners with a number that it believes represents their respective tariffs, along with an opportunity for talks to avoid, quote, a tariff war. And U.S. President Donald Trump and his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin speak on the phone for 2 hours on Tuesday, after which the latter agrees to halt attacks on energy infrastructure. President Yoon Suk-yeol's political fate remains in limbo as the Constitutional Court remains silent on a date for its decision on his impeachment. Our correspondent Oh Soo-young reports.
3 weeks and counting. The Constitutional Court has yet to announce when it will rule on President Yoon Suk-yeol's impeachment, meaning there may be no verdict this week. It took at most 2 weeks for former Presidents Park Geun-hye and Roh Moo-yeon, but there has been no word from the court as of Wednesday, 22 days since Yoon's final trial hearing was held. The chance that the verdict will be delivered this Friday is looking slimmer, given that the court notified former leaders 2 to 3 days in advance of their respective ruling dates. The 8-member bench was reportedly convening even on Tuesday to deliberate on Yoon's impeachment, despite holding a trial hearing for Justice Minister Park Sung-jae. The longer-than-expected process has given rise to diverse speculations over what's holding up the justices. Some experts believe they have already decided unanimously to impeach President Yoon and are fine-tuning their positions to deliver an indisputable judgment, amid fears that the result may trigger extreme reactions from the public. The Seoul Western District Court's approval to extend a warrant to detain Yoon prompted violence from his supporters. Some believe the bench may be divided ideologically and are struggling to align their views, given how an earlier impeachment case of Korea Communications Commission Chair Lee Jin-suk was dismissed, as the justices' opinions were split evenly in line with their political orientations. In any case, the justices are facing growing calls to make a swift decision, as Yoon's prolonged suspension from office hinders effective governance of the nation. The bench is also under significant political pressure. Those supporting Yoon's impeachment wish to quickly trigger a snap presidential election, which polls show would largely favour opposition Democratic Party leader Lee Jae-myung. Meanwhile, conservatives, including Yoon's supporters, are calling for the case to be dismissed, or for the court to deliver a ruling after Lee Jae-myung's own verdict on one of his 5 criminal cases next Tuesday.
If 6 or more justices agree to uphold the impeachment, Yoon will be removed from office immediately, triggering an early presidential election that must be held within 60 days. If 3 or more justices are against impeachment, Yoon will return to his office and resume his duties. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
The Trump administration has highlighted the presence of, quote, 15 dirty trade partners as it reaffirms the implementation of reciprocal tariffs on April 2nd. Our Lee Soo-jin covers this latest remark and more.
Concerns over how U.S. President Donald Trump's reciprocal tariffs will impact South Korea growing, especially with its potential inclusion in the so-called Dirty 15 group of trade partners. Speaking to Fox News on Tuesday, U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said that there were 15 nations, which he referred to as the Dirty 15, that are imposing substantial tariffs on the U.S. He did not clarify which nations would be included, but with Trump previously highlighting South Korea as one of the countries that he claimed was unfairly benefiting from trade imbalances, there are growing concerns that Korea may be among the countries targeted.
And South Korea's average tariff is 4 times higher. Think of that, 4 times higher. And we give so much help militarily and in so many other ways to South Korea.
South Korea's trade surplus with the U.S. reached over $55 billion last year, meaning that it could be a major target for the Trump administration. Bessent said that come April 2nd, each country will receive a specific reciprocal tariff number deemed fair by the U.S. and that Dirty 15 countries are likely to face higher tariffs due to perceived unfair trade practices. He added that the tariff calculation would be determined by the U.S. Trade Representative and the U.S. Commerce Department. The U.S. Treasury Secretary said that he has not seen any figures yet, as they are still being calculated. But Besant expressed optimism that some of the tariffs may not go into effect if a deal is pre-negotiated or if countries look to negotiate after April 2nd. Emphasizing that the U.S. is only in pursuit of fair and reciprocal trade, Besant said that countries that stop trade practices that the U.S. deems unfair could avoid reciprocal tariffs. Such practices include non-tariff barriers, currency manipulation, unfair funding, and labor suppression. While Besant believes reciprocal tariffs could lead to a win-win situation for everyone, they continue to cause concerns here in South Korea, with trade officials keen to avoid new U.S. tariffs. 이수진, Arirang News.
And in related news, yet another U.S. economic policymaker has underscored the presence of alleged trade imbalances between South Korea and the U.S. Our Shin Ha-young reports.
With about 2 weeks until the announcement of reciprocal tariff plans, a top economic aide to U.S. President Donald Trump mentioned South Korea as a major trade deficit country. U.S. National Economic Council Director Kevin Hassett told CNBC on Monday that trade deficits with Europe, China, and South Korea have persisted for years, claiming the deficits are attributable to the country's high tariffs and non-tariff trade barriers. He added that if U.S. trading partners immediately lower all barriers, the negotiations will be over. Since South Korea and the U.S. have a free trade agreement that removes tariffs on most items, Hassett's statement is raising expectations of increased pressure on South Korea to lower non-tariff trade barriers.
The Trump administration is focused on fixing trade imbalances and seems to be taking a one-on-one approach with countries that have large trade deficits. For South Korea, this could mean either imposing tariffs to reduce imports or negotiating to lower barriers, so South Korea can import more from the U.S.
The expert from the Korea Institute for International Economic Policy emphasized the need for South Korea to review its contributions to the U.S. and assess potential U.S. demands on non-tariff trade barriers.
We need to review our contributions to the U.S. and potential demands from the U.S. on non-tariff trade barriers. However, with many uncertainties, it's too early for negotiations.
Meanwhile, during the interview with CNBC, Hassett said there will be some uncertainty between now and April 2nd, referring to the date Trump is set to unveil his reciprocal tariff plans. His comments come as market analysts and business leaders have criticized the sweeping tariff announcements, which have led to volatility in world markets. However, Hassett defended Trump's tariffs against Mexico, Canada, and China, calling them very positive developments, adding things will clear up after April 2nd. Shin Ha-young, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, acting President Choi Sang-mok has reaffirmed government support for small and medium-sized businesses amid the 25% U.S. tariffs on steel and aluminum imports into the American market. During a meeting on this Wednesday, he spoke of trade insurance for the steel sector and consultations for smaller companies to address the financial burden of tougher U.S. tariffs. Choi also highlighted the importance of maintaining close and constructive communication with all parties involved to minimize the potential fallout from excessive trade barriers. And global credit rating agency Fitch has lowered its growth outlook for the U.S. this year. In its latest projection made public on Tuesday, the agency forecast that the U.S. economy would expand 1.7%, down from its earlier estimate of 2.1%. It also lowered its outlook for next year to 1.5%. Analysts at the agency are linking their revisions to higher risks of a global trade war, owing to the Trump administration's tariff campaign, which they add will increase inflation in the U.S. In an alarming turn of events, Israel has resumed its airstrikes against Gaza, claiming that the Palestinian militant group Hamas has failed to hold up its end of the ceasefire. Hamas has made a similar accusation against Israel. Our Jimin has the latest.
The 2-month-long ceasefire between Israel and Gaza has been shattered after Israel resumed airstrikes in Gaza. Early Tuesday, Israeli forces launched strikes that, according to the Gazan Health Ministry, killed over 400 Palestinians, including women and children. This occurred as the first phase of the ceasefire that started in January ended, but with plans for talks on a second phase to end the war and the release of more hostages beginning. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu defended the airstrikes, asserting that ceasefire negotiations would continue only under fire.
I want to assure Hamas this is only the beginning. We will continue to fight to achieve all the goals of this war, securing the release of all our hostages, eliminating Hamas, and ensuring that Gaza will no longer pose a threat to Israel.
Both Israel and Hamas blamed each other for violating the truce, which had mostly remained in place since January. Netanyahu stated that the strikes were ordered because Hamas had rejected ceasefire extension proposals. While Hamas did not retaliate directly, it accused Israel of undermining efforts to secure a permanent ceasefire. Hamas still holds 59 of the approximately 250 hostages taken during the October 7, 2023 attack on Israel. Hamas stated that it saw Israel's attack as Netanyahu's decision to resume war and a choice to abandon Israeli captives. The international community has also widely condemned the renewed violence, with the United Nations expressing deep concern over the escalating humanitarian crisis.
We are horrified by last night's Israeli airstrikes and shelling in Gaza, which killed hundreds, according to the Ministry of Health in the Strip. This will add tragedy onto the tragedy.
Several countries, including Egypt and France, have also called for an immediate halt to hostilities. Jimin, Arirang News.
Russia, meanwhile, has rejected a 30-day truce with Ukraine and instead accepted calls to cease assaults on energy facilities. This latest development follows phone talks between the leaders of the Kremlin and the White House on Tuesday, U.S. time. Our Choi Soo-young has more.
U.S. President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin have agreed on a limited ceasefire and energy and infrastructure targets in Russia and Ukraine. On Tuesday local time, the White House announced that in a lengthy phone call between both parties, Russia agreed to halt attacks on energy and infrastructure facilities for 30 days. The Kremlin stated that Putin had immediately ordered a halt to attack on these sites. During the 3-year conflict between Russia and Ukraine, attacks on these sites caused immense damage. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky also stated that he supports Trump's proposal.
We support all steps towards ending the war. We will give support, but in order to support something, we need to understand what specifically it is.
He expressed his willingness to speak with Trump at any time to hear the details on the phone talks with Putin. He also stated that Ukraine cannot be excluded from future discussions on the details of the ceasefire. However, a full ceasefire still seems some way off. Recently, Putin rejected Trump's proposal for a 30-day full ceasefire, citing concerns such as Ukraine's potential rearmament. During the call, Putin also insisted that foreign military and intelligence assistance to Ukraine should be halted. Europe welcomed the agreement between Trump and Putin, but stressed that Ukraine's position must be taken into account. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz and French President Emmanuel Macron stated in a press conference on Tuesday that Ukraine must be involved in the negotiations to achieve a just peace for Ukraine. Meanwhile, Moscow said that Russia and Ukraine are set to exchange 175 prisoners of war each on Wednesday. Choi Soo-young, Arirang News.
On the entertainment front, K-pop boy band Stray Kids and Jimin from BTS were among those celebrated at the annual iHeartRadio Music Awards 2025 in Los Angeles on Tuesday local time. Stray Kids won K-pop Album of the Year for the second year in a row with its album 8, released last July. Meanwhile, ATEEZ was named K-pop Artist of the Year, while BTS's Jimin won K-pop Song of the Year with his track Who. Girl group iLit clinched Best New Artist for K-pop. The awards also introduced a new category this year, Favorite K-pop Dance Challenge, which went to Yeonjun from Tomorrow by Together. South Korea is a global powerhouse of esports, and its universities are now hoping to play a part in nurturing some of the country's future stars. Our Yoon has details.
At first glance, students playing esports games may seem like they're just having fun. But this is actually part of a university course. Above all, understanding games is essential. This is a game practice room, something you don't typically find at regular universities. Many students have once dreamed of becoming professional esports players, but as they dive deeper into the world of gaming, they realize that success in esports comes in many forms.
I started playing the game League of Legends in high school, and I ranked 33rd in the country at the highest challenger level. I received pro offers and joined a training academy, but soon realized how competitive the scene was. So I decided to pursue a related career and become a game analyst and tournament organizer.
Many South Korean universities are turning gaming into an academic and professional field, opening doors to a variety of careers. As esports gains popularity, many players invest significant time and effort, but never reach the pro level. However, education in this field can open new opportunities for them. Most importantly, it can provide a fresh start for pro gamers who are often known for having short career spans. Behind esports star players and tournaments, key roles include global event organizers, content marketers, team coaches, and media professionals who share players' performances with the public.
Our curriculum trains students to become professionals in areas such as planning and organizing esports tournaments, as well as game programming for gaming companies.
I chose to pursue a degree in esports because I love it, and I feel it suits my strength. Also, I believe it's a growing industry.
Dongyang University's campus, located just outside of Seoul, is home to the first 4-year esports program in the metropolitan area, while many other universities are also embracing the growing esports industry by offering training for talented individuals. Yoon, Arirang News.
And 2 NASA astronauts have safely returned to Earth after an extended stay at the International Space Station. Butch Wilmore and Sunny Williams made a safe splashdown off the coast of Florida on Tuesday, local time. The pair was chosen for the first crewed test flight of Boeing's Starliner. But upon arrival at the ISS in June last year, engineers detected a number of technical issues with the spacecraft, which led to its return to Earth in September without Wilmore and Williams on board. As a result, their 8-day mission became an almost 300-day stay in space. Solar sails are a method of propulsion for spacecraft using solar radiation, and if they are well developed, experts believe they may serve as affordable means of travel in space. Having said that, our Cha Yoon-kyung covers Korea's related efforts.
Korean researchers have developed an apparatus that can store solar sails and then deploy them once a spacecraft reaches space. The square-shaped solar sail with an area of 10 square meters obtains power by capturing photons emitted by the sun in the sail.
It seems like the wind pushing a sailboat, but it's actually a photon engine that drives the craft. For this, when photons from the sun hit the sail, they move it forward.
If the solar sail is attached to a spaceship, it can travel through space for extended times without using a conventional engine. The solar sail made by the Korean researchers is larger than the ACS-3 unveiled by NASA in April last year, which is 9 square meters. Also, researchers explained that the solar sail is extremely light since it is an aluminum metallized PET film. The solar sail can be folded down to 20 square centimeters so that it can be easily stored in the opening apparatus. A direct current electric motor easily folds and deploys the sail in space. Eyes are on whether the sail made by the local researchers can be utilized in space after its successful demonstration on land. Cha Yoon-kyung, Arirang News.
This is The World Now, bringing you the latest stories from around the globe. The European Union has unveiled a plan to bolster its defense capabilities by 2030, aiming to enhance military autonomy and reduce reliance on external allies. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen announced on Tuesday in Copenhagen the EU's initiative to rearm itself by 2030, targeting a significant enhancement of the bloc's defense infrastructure. The strategy aims to establish a credible deterrent in response to evolving geopolitical threats, notably the ongoing conflict in Ukraine and uncertainties regarding U.S. military support. The Readiness 2030 strategy, which will be announced on Wednesday local time, comprises several key components, including fiscal flexibility, defense loans, and infrastructure development. The proposal also includes the creation of a European military sales mechanism to streamline collective arms procurement across the EU and support arms manufacturers. In Germany, the parliament has approved a historic spending package aimed at revitalizing the economy and bolstering defense capabilities. The legislation, championed by incoming Chancellor Friedrich Merz, secured a two-thirds majority in the parliament. Key components of the package include a $545 billion fund allocated over 12 years for infrastructure modernization and provisions for unlimited defense spending, facilitated by constitutional amendments easing strict debt regulations. The bill now awaits approval from Germany's upper house to become law. The International Olympic Committee commenced its 144th session in ancient Olympia, Greece, on Tuesday local time. The session holds particular significance as it comes just before the election of a new IOC president, set to take place on March 20th. 7 candidates are contending for the presidency, including prominent figures such as the current IOC vice president and an Olympic swimming champion, who is Zimbabwe's current sports minister. Outgoing President Thomas Bach, who has led the IOC since 2013, addressed the assembly at the Olympic Academy, emphasizing the session's role in honoring the organization's heritage and future. Choi Ji-hee, Arirang News.
All the snowstorm clouds that dropped unseasonably heavy snow have receded and clear skies appeared across the country today. However, due to the influence of the remaining cold air, the cold snap will continue until today. From tomorrow afternoon, the temperature will rise significantly and it will become warm again. However, air quality is expected to be dusty as smoke from overseas gradually flows in. Seoul, Incheon, Chungcheongnam-do Province and Jeollanam-do Province will see bad levels of ultrafine dust tomorrow. Tomorrow morning, Daejeon, Gwangju, and Daegu will start off at 0 degrees Celsius and Busan at 3 degrees. Daily highs will move up to 16 degrees in Daejeon and Gyeongju, 17 degrees in Daegu. Temperatures will gradually rise and the daytime temperature in Seoul will be very warm at around 20 degrees this weekend. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
Those are the headlines at this hour here in South Korea. Coming up right after this break is our daily panel session. Do stay with us.